And don't go too far away, because I would like to invite all the speakers from the previous panel and from this panel to the stage for a quick roundtable discussion. And maybe just to mention the title, like how do we interact with data-driven places and stories? What was my idea behind this is basically looking at gamification serious gaming. We see that very often the data which is being created is used for evaluating behaviors and user-driven stories. But dealing with these large amounts of data, how do we actually, because these are kind of summaries of thousands of stories, but to make a story really interesting is actually you have to pick a few of them. And what interests me is like, how do we, in this kind of data-driven times we are living, in the age of new data, big data, how do we kind of tackle and address these kind of new challenges and opportunities, but also threats in many aspects of our daily life. So we have seen also from the environmental issues with the deforestations, to empower citizens or scientists, digital services, and so on. And how do we facilitate these kind of decision-making processes by different stakeholders? So also, like, we see very technical people, but also non-technical people. And I think I would like to also pose a very provocative question to all the speakers. I don't know if you know Cedric Price, a very visionary architect who said in the 60s, technology is the answer, but what was the question? I would just throw it into the round. Serious gaming and gamification is the answer, but what was the original question we were looking at?
Actually, I will begin just to say that you can vote no. That would be great, so that we can quickly get to the rewards because everybody talked.
I have a question. Since nobody's listening and voting anyways, we can be experimental.
Yeah.
No, I think one question would be, how do we motivate and engage participants?
Yeah.
Because for me, game design is motivational design, and it offers many options and experiences that people are willing to participate in doing all the stuff that we want from them, you know.
Anyone wants from the audience? We basically, the idea of the round table, it's very round, so the audience is part of the round table discussion. We have someone up there. We don't hear you. I will quickly give him up.
Maybe one question is how can we motivate more of the people to do stuff like we do actually, and because it proves that if we have pleasure to make something, we make it better. So how to improve that, this aspect?
Yeah, pleasure is one thing. Also, one of the famous examples is that why we had games where there was a huge famine, and basically in the Middle East, thousands of years ago, and the idea was like, okay, how do we get through this famine? And the idea is just bread and games, right? We give them one day, we give them something to eat, and the second day they have to immerse into a gaming activity. How to do that? That's
yours is dying too. Okay.
Everyone is getting.
Yeah, you're mine.
As well, the mic. Yeah.
It's a tricky question, anyway. I don't think anyone can answer directly, but for sure, last year I heard this story. I'm pretty sure it's true. What happened in what is this country? Very close to Spain. It's Portugal. Portugal. Sorry, it's very tired. In Portugal, they had this issue with income tax. And the government had decided to gamify the income tax. Basically, they say, okay, well, if you declare what you earn, then you can have some lottery tickets. And you can earn a car, or even 2 cars. And of course, the most that you declare, you will get a lot of tickets. And actually it worked very well. Everybody declared their taxes.
And if I may add, it's also interesting because you have a lot of data feedback about where you spend your money, where it goes, and also it's automatic. So if you pay by card, it's automatically linked to you, so you automatically get the data. You don't have to declare as well. It's already done for you.
Which it's always a true story. I had some hard time to believe it, but so it seems to be it's true. So maybe a solution is from my point of view, the solution is just there. You just have to make the effort to go on the ground and to take it. The first big problem is that to make understand that people have to make the effort to look at that. It's a problem of perspective. It's like you've got this process and you know it's not efficient currently because people are not involved. So it's just a point of view. You change the point of view. Thinking of another point of view can be sometimes hard. But from my point of view, it's really, really always efficient.
Thank you. I want to come back to this aspect of motivation. I think that this is the main aspect that games and serious games can bring us, is motivation. And I would try to perhaps attempt to explain that. I think that the big difference within games is the active role of the user. A definition of games is that we act, we react, we do something, we solve. So we have an active role. And in many domains, for example, in education, we complain a lot about the passive role of students in dealing with, for example, in a museum, in general, we are passive in the classic way. In many contexts, we are passive. So the game can transform this attitude, this position, and transform the user and give him an active role. And this can have a double effect. So first, this active role can give us feedback, reaction, collecting data, etc. And for the other time, of course, because all of us are egocentric a little bit. So when we are active, we are more motivated and we can do better and we can learn better and we can work better. So perhaps this is one way to explain the benefits we can take from games in many situations, especially dealing with collecting data and dealing with our heritage, our museum, cities, street, etc. So the active role. Thanks.
Thank you. So to come back about the motivation, I'm a huge fan of motivation since this is all in the sport fields. I will not raise the debate about what is motivating people or not, but I have a study in mind which was made by Deci and Ryan in 1975. So it's quite easy. You have a group of people that enjoy making an activity. They are making it for fun. And then you give them a reward incentive, it could be money, it could be social feedback, and then they stop doing this activity. So now I just had this question in mind, how is it about games? You have people that have fun playing games, and then you put the games in their environments, and through the games they could get rewards or incentive or whatever. Would they stop having this fun and but at the same time stop the activity?
That's a fantastic open question, because I think also what we addressed in the intro of the panel, that was that basically the gamification, like within the art and cultural inheritance, is not as simple as just like, you know, in a touristic app, you don't want to just like collect all the sightseeings to get like the best badges. That's not maybe your initial motivation. You just want to know more about the place. But how can you actually translate this kind of these achievements in a more let's say like more poetic or more interesting artistic way?
I agree, yes. Of course, you cannot just put a game structure and throw it on anything you want people to do. It's much more complex, and I also think the frame in which the participation will take place is key. Is it mandatory? Is it in a class, or is it in a tourist office, or does it have to compete on the market? I think serious games and gamification is an immense promise that are not always being able to be held. So sometimes it should be just enough if there's an awareness being raised for a problem, and then maybe it will go on in people's minds, and then maybe they will do more research on their own or read more. Or sometimes I think serious games as awareness-raising games are also something that I think is interesting.
I don't know if anyone wants to say something, but I would then continue. There is something in games that is called efforts. How much time will you spend in a game? And we have theory in psychology that would suggest the more difficult the task is and the more competencies you have, the more effort you will put. So for someone that has a lot of competence, so he really knows the game, and the task is easy, he will not put a lot of effort in it. And I was just wondering if you saw this when you present your games and you watch how participants are reacting to the games. How does it work?
Sure. I mean, you talk about the flow channel, right? Also that it should never be too easy or difficult, otherwise people get bored or they leave the game. That's a big question. Also, when you think, like, for example, in urban games, you want people to be able to join, even the game has started. You want people after 1 week to be able to join, or after 1 month. You have to think about the level design, that the people who are already playing don't feel cheated when other people get more points, but they can still compete. If you want to have a competition going on, that's really complex.
Yeah, just to add one thing, it's about, I would say, stress release. Whatever the level of competence that you have, whatever the game, if you succeed to make a majority of players having a stress release, then an increasing one, if possible, in the time, that you will make your game addictive, and they will work and are willing to continue the game. I'll give you an example. Basically, you have the beginning of the level will be a bit stressful, but not too bad, and it will increase a little bit, and then it stops, and it gives you a lot of pleasure, or you succeed. Next level, and then a little bit more stress, and then release. And with this way, it's a really good way of making the game addictive. If you add on the feature some level that are very similar to the other one, your game is for free. But they are not as the other one. They are actually looking like the other one. And you give the possibility to pay for having some extra life or whatever to cross the level, then you will earn a lot of money. Candy Crush is based on that, but I mean it's very simple to say, but it's extremely hard to develop.
I want just to add something. It's perhaps more or less technical, but in the game design theory, we have what we know this problem, and we have what we call in the game design the distinction between what we call the real complexity, the field or the ressenti, I don't know the term, the subjective complexity, and then what we call the real complexity. And it depends, for example, for the absolute complexity, we just calculate the difficulty for someone with no experience and with any help from the game. So they don't have, he don't have credits, he don't have superpowers, etc. And then we can add this to calculate what we call subjective complexity, and then with experience we calculate what we call the real complexity. And when we design games, we take into account that, and when we make what we call the game tuning and the game balancing, this is something which is very well known for game designers. So we take into account that, and we try to adapt the game to multiple levels of technicity of experience, of etc. So the goal is to have everyone motivated and attracted. If not, it's not a problem of game, it's a problem of design.
I think another little remark. Do you want to say something, Stefan? I really like the notion Mela brought up, is like raising awareness games, actually, because like yesterday we also saw, and again it makes us think of that actually the context is really important. So like if you see if you remind you on the DATAC example we had yesterday, basically making people aware of what is privacy, what is surveillance in these days, like when you have cookies and all these kind of surveillance cameras, etc. But these topics are very intangible and not very easily quantifiable for us as individuals. And maybe that's, and the game itself, it will not just like make you better or in like how you deal with surveillance, but it will just like, as an effect, raise awareness. So I think maybe next year the conference might be called Serious Gaming, Gamification and Raising Awareness Games. Just like a little take-home message. But I think we're running out of time, and we can have further discussions out in the bar. But before that, I think Stefan has to announce something very important, and I think we should put on, again on the slides, the voting process and trophy, the award ceremony. So thank you very much.
Mais je leur ai demandé de voter déjà pendant le dernier. Donc je peux faire juste le ending ceremony. Je mets le comité ici. Oui, si possible. Ouais. Sam. Et puis le Björk aussi. Tu peux inviter Björk à venir.
Björn?
Can you
we need Björn and Thierry and
Pierre left.
Huh?
Pierre left.
Yeah. And who's left? Tu veux encore quelqu'un d'autre?
Non, je pense qu'on a Christophe. Pourquoi j'ai plus rien? Si, j'ai projeté. Ah d'accord, ouais. Je sais jamais. Tac. Comment ça se fait?
Je sais pas.
Bon, je l'avais par défaut.
C'est live les résultats? Ou vous le savez?
Non, non, j'ai pas regardé.
Ah non, ça marche pas.
Donne-moi ton propre. Moi j'ai juste voté.
Bon.
517.
Seems to be I have to make a copy. Sorry for that, guys.
Mais là, on n'a rien. Je pense que c'est un. Il n'y a pas un truc débranché là?
C'est moi. Si, si. 2 secondes.
rappelle que ceux qui ont été sélectionnés, on n'envoie pas par la poste.
Qu'est-ce que... Yes, the head in Geneva designed the trophy.
Non, je ne vois pas ce qui se passe.
J'ai pas vu.
Je la demande.
Je souhaite que ce soit les invités qui donnent le trophée.
Maria, tu peux aller... Est-ce que quelqu'un peut aller chercher Maria?
Maria,
Je sais bien qu'on n'a pas le résultat.
J'appelle
Mais au
comme ça,
moins
Maria.
qu'elle prépare, les trophées. Maria, c'est...
Qui a fait ce machin?
Ouais, ça tout ça.
Oui.
Ouais.
Bah,
Sorry for that, guys.
In English.
Ça fait chier. Pourquoi ça marche pas?
ça marche pas.
Ça recommence. Tac. Oui, ça recommence.
C'est bon?
C'est bon. Hop.
100.
You should tell us, how
They sold millions of copies, and at least a game where you play civilian during the war and you have to survive. And it's really completely dark. You have story of rapes, starving, children dying. It's an horrible story.
C'est
You
le
think
plus
it's
récent.
a great game. Many people think it's a
Celui-là.
great game because they sold millions of copies and they have so many awards. That's if you look at the Steam comments. This is
T'as un talk de fin?
that
Ouais,
on Steam.
c'est celui-là.
Many people say,
Ok, super.
I don't want to
Qu'est-ce
play
qu'il
a
fait?
game like
Plein de
that.
trucs.
A video game for me is not having a bad experience, a sad story. I want to have fun with video games, and I think the subject. I mean, these Polish guys are
Oui.
so good in game design, in level design, in marketing. The system.
Tu mets... Je sais plus comment tu vas le mettre, tu vas le mettre comme ça. Donc,
Perfect.
il y a un truc où tu vois le prix.
At least they choose a very difficult subject.